Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Mike Lead Aspire session today. I am Mary Cheney. You should know who I am by now. We have an esteemed guest and colleague of mine that's joined the call today. But if you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our channel. And we are going to not delay because me and her get together and we can kind of go for hours. So we only have 1 hour to get through this wonderful person's background. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it and welcome to Ieshea Hollins here with us on the mic tonight. As you guys know, we're doing these fireside chats. We've been doing them all year. I cannot believe we only have a couple more left before the end of the year. It's like, oh my gosh. But in any event, we have Ieshea Hollins, who I am going to allow to introduce herself. So you go for it.
Well, hi. Hi, Mary. Thank you so very much. It is a pleasure to be here, as usual. My name is Ieshea Hollins. I am the founder, CEO, and CISO for Forensic Technology Consulting Group. It's an organization that I started about 15 years ago in Monroe, Louisiana. We actually got started with digital forensics, working right alongside of our local, so Louisiana. So, we're not big time like Miss Cheney over there, but I worked alongside, did a couple of cases or whatnot in Louisiana with the FBI. We worked with law enforcement and legal. And then we added cybersecurity as one of our services to become one of the first organizations to actually marry both cybersecurity and digital forensics in a non-law enforcement way. And so we've just been growing and going ever since.
Well, yes, yes, yes. So speaking of that, so the first question I ask everybody when they come on the mic with us on this session is tell us your origin story. How and why cybersecurity?
Oh, wow. Um, Great question. When I was a child, my father used to tell me that I needed to be an ethical hacker. Even before there was ever such a thing, I tell everybody, he knew I needed to do something, but he knew I needed to understand I better do it legally. Because if I'd have went to jail, he was gonna leave me in there. You know? So but I always loved knowing how things worked. And, kind of date myself. I'm not old, but I'm old enough to know when computers was too big, they cost too much, right, for you to tear them apart. So we used to, my sister and I, we would take things apart, watches, things. We loved knowing how they worked. So for a computer, for me, it became knowing the ins and outs. How does a file work? How do I get in things? And so I was always kind of doing that early on. But as we know and understand, that was not a career. It was not a course in college you could take. So you actually, with most of us, you're self-taught when you start talking about cybersecurity and digital forensics, right? You have to get in there and be diligent and learn how to do it. And so that's pretty much how I got started, like in high school and whatnot, just learning how things worked. I tell everybody I did not hack anyone who didn't deserve it. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. No, seriously, I didn't, but I was very curious. I think with a lot of that I think that's this field is a lot of curiosity, right? So the business started because I worked at a telecommunications company, one of the third largest telecoms in the world. And while I was there, they asked us to do IT recruiting because, as I said, I'm from Louisiana. So it was hard finding talent. And a lot of people didn't think that they could work in tech and stay in Louisiana. They always had to go away. So my organization said, hey, we need them to understand that we have a very progressive IT department. We want y'all to start recruiting. blah, blah, blah. I became one of the leads for the recruiting team. It was Calandra Dupree and myself and Bill Bradley. And so we actually started the IT recruiting. Well, when they introduced the schools, they left a couple of us off. And I was adamant that we didn't leave certain universities off. And so Southern University became my university. And as I traveled back and forth to Baton Rouge, Louisiana at that time, there was a case that was very, very, very prevalent in the news. And there was I don't know the better way to put it, and I don't want to offend anybody, but it was a pedophile ring. It's live. I don't know what to tell you, but that's the case. And so they had arrested a group of guys. And in that particular arrest, there was only one man, and he was very, very vocal, very, very loud. And he kept insisting, I did not do it. And every time I was traveling down south, I would hear this about this guy, and he was just adamant. So I began to think, who is his team working with, right? Like, who is listening to him, and where do you go if you've been accused of a crime that you didn't do, especially in a technical crime, right? You have to take the word of the police. You have to take the word of whoever turned in the documentation, and did chain of custody get followed, and all those questions. And so I began to talk to Dr. Abraham, and he was one of the professors at Southern. And he told me that they had just introduced a program at Southern. He asked me, did I want to audit it? And I said yes. So I audited their program. And while I was auditing it, I was starting my own consulting firm on the side. So, and the rest is history.
That is a great story. That's great. And let's go back a little bit. So, college educated, yes or no?
Yes.
What school did you go to?
So I went to the University of Louisiana at Monroe, ULM.
Okay.
My undergrad was computer information systems with a minor in computer science, but I actually started out in music.
Oh, see, you skipped all of that. We said origin story, and you
Oh,
skipped
my
the
bad.
music career. What? So you had a information security background. Now, of course, I always feel like there's always an arts component to STEM.
Mhm.
And I have it in me as well, a little as it relates to painting and doing stuff, DIY stuff around my house or whatever,
Of
all of that
course.
stuff. There's an element of arts in there. So what what was the music part about? Composing? Was it singing? Was it you playing an instrument? What kind of instrument? What kind of hidden talents do you have?
They ain't so hidden. I just don't whoop them out around Mike. You'll
We got
embarrass
the
me.
talent show. We got
I
the
know.
talent
I knew you
show.
was gonna say that. Uh-uh. Um, so a little bit more about my background. My father is a pastor. And so he has his own church, has had his own church since I was a little girl. So all of us were musical, right? Whether we wanted to or not. Luckily, the Lord did bless us, so we weren't embarrassing ourselves. Um, so I am vocal. I actually was awarded a scholarship in music to every school in the state of Louisiana. So I had my pick of schools. And so which is why I went into music when I went to college, and I made sure I was still in IT. My father was adamant that we went into something that was going to pay, because he said that the music wouldn't, because the music was only for the Lord to use. Stop it. So, but yes, I sing, I do play the drums, and I play piano.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're gonna have to get the piano or drum set out for the talent show. Get you some, well, at least pay you some background music. You can sing for us. Okay, never mind.
You up for
What
you.
whatever. And of course you are I'll put you out there. You know me.
I
You like
know.
I'm a
I'm hoping you
disappear.
forget. I hope you forget this whole interview.
Oh no, no ma'am. No ma'am. That stays. That's right there forever. So before we get into the entrepreneur piece, because you were in corporate, what advice would you give younger professionals that are looking to get into the space? Our aspirers group or either individuals that have some cybersecurity background, they just can't get a role, or they're transitioning into the space from another profession. So what's a piece of advice that you would give them?
Um, it's going to be very, very cliche. Trust yourself is what I'll say. Um, when this space needs a lot of help, right? And I think we go about it looking for talent wrong, and we can't change how the outside sees it and brings us in. Eventually, things are going to have to change, right? There, the talent gap is too large, which I know you know. The talent gap is too large, right? And so, what I tell anyone that I'm either working with or talking to or mentoring, um, if you're interested in this space, though, don't just take the lazy route. A lot of us, oh, I'm interested in it and I want to do it. And when you come to me and you start asking me questions, and the question becomes, well, what part of cybersecurity interests you, right? What areas do you want to focus on? Um, what do you enjoy? What are you good at, right? Then I start getting the well, I don't knows. And the I want to go into cyber because I understand it pays a lot. That's a pain point of an answer. Anything can eventually pay a lot, right? Are you passionate about it? Are you passionate enough that somewhere in your house, because as I said, self-taught. So did you have the little did you set up your own network at home? Do you know how networks work? Have you actually done some hack the boxes, some exercises, some have you attended some you don't have to necessarily go the college route because though I'm college educated, I just said I still don't have my cybersecurity via college, right? Because I couldn't, they didn't teach it yet. So the things that I learned, I had to do it on the side, right? And so when you're passionate about anything, you want to know it, join the forums, talk to the right people, join MiC Talent, MiC Leads, you know, I plug you all day. So, but join the communities that will, help you to better understand this space too, because the last thing you want is to spend a whole lot of time to get a job that you still hate because you're still only chasing a dollar. Cyber can be good and it can be a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell the apprentices all the time. I said, okay, now you're gonna work hard and you're gonna work to get into the cybersecurity field. You're gonna have your first role, and then in about a year and a half, you're gonna be bored. And so, no, I mean, if you talk about an L1 role, right? You talk
Oh,
about,
I'm agreeing with you.
oh, okay. And so, what are you going to do next? Right.
Right.
And so, if you don't have a plan or a path to not only entry,
That's
but
right.
accelerating through, you're going to be disappointed because don't get me started. I'll get the fussing. They're not going to pay you all of this money to not bring something to the
Yeah,
table and not work hard. I was, talking to folks about the basics, reading for comprehension. You know me about
I
that.
do.
Writing, right? You can't be a pen tester and not know how to write a pen testing report. Again, all of these folks, they, what? You
Girl,
want to do all of this stuff, but the basics. Go ahead. I struck a nerve there.
you did, honey. So listen. I literally just finished a very, very large pen test. So not to interrupt your story because I'm enjoying it, but I just finished. And so my pen test, all of his certifications and everything, and I'm not telling on him if he's watching, he know I'm not lying on him. But when it came time to do the report, right? The formatting and the way you communicate and how to lay things out and oh, Miss Hollins, I don't know. Oh, can you help me? Oh, there's a price tag that we're paying. And when we pay for that, you don't want to have to, as the owner, CEO, any of your C suites do not need a report to come back at us, right? That we got to proofread like we teachers.
right. And those basic skills, right, those are necessary. And so it's not just being able to perform the pen test, it's being able to accurately explain the results in an executive way.
That's right.
And so those things, I think, and one of the things that I always say is this cybersecurity, information security's problem that we've created is this whole idea that it's only SecOps, right? It's only security operations that a person does. So we had and that's what I meant to write down earlier. I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. We had a quarterly workforce development conversation with some hiring managers and CISOs and other hiring managers in cybersecurity space, and we were talking about essentially what the needs were, and honestly, it's not AI, it's partly understanding, but that's not the first part. Any true leader will tell you, I can teach you the technology, but I can't teach you how to read to understand. I can't teach you how to write.
That's
Right.
right.
And so they were talking about being able to the basics, being able to communicate effectively what it is that you're doing. And one of the hiring managers, he said, oh, the SOC puts out a role, they get 500 resumes. He said, I put out an entry level vulnerability management role and there's crickets. It's literally it's in the profession, but we haven't done ourselves we haven't done a good job marketing the various aspects of which that you can be within this profession where there are entry level spots, right? But every time, because look, if a hiring manager puts a sock roll out there and I have 500 resumes, I'm telling you right now, I used to be a hiring manager, still am with the business. I'm not reading 500 resumes. I'm just not.
Well, and I don't blame you, and you shouldn't. You're doing way more important things than 500 resumes, man. Um, the what I'll add to that, because you are spot on, and I've been saying it for years, and you and I have shared this conversation. Um, there's a lack of understanding of what cybersecurity is inside and outside of the industry, and that's what's so sad. Thusly, my question, when you come to me, already be prepared, right? What part of this industry do you want in? And anytime I have that conversation, so it's sad because on one side, I'll get from the I want to work in this space. I'm not a hacker though. I don't want to hack. I'm not a programmer. I'm sorry, not a hacker. I'm not a programmer. I hate programming. Give me anything but programming. On the consumer side, what is cybersecurity? We get stuck at identity theft. It doesn't go any farther, right? And
Mm.
so if I'm hacked, honey, I don't got but $10 in my account. They can break in my account. And if they see I ain't got but $10, they'll feel bad for me and they'll even put some money in my account. So when you're having the conversation holistically, there's not a combination or a full understanding what is cybersecurity and how does it help you and how does it hurt you and what do I need to do in this space. I mean, think about it. We have detect, protect, there's all of the ways. Like once there has been a breach, what do I do then? How do I communicate, right? So I've had people or my clients that I've talked to and who always don't want to hire you because they say they can't afford it, right? And then you ask them, okay, so in the event your organization is breached, who do your people call? And they'll look at you and go, the police? So my question back is, so the first time you hear about your organization's breach is on the news. You didn't tell that there's no incident response plan. There is no communication. There is no disaster recovery. There is no business continuity. There is no, you said there is no public relations person who has that conversation on your behalf, who knows the language and the lingo. There, so in other words, I just called out how many of the jobs did I just call out that wasn't SOC, Mary?
Oh, at least a half a dozen. And you forget to identify, detect, protect, respond. It's just five whole things in the mix.
Five. It's five of them. It's
Identify,
five.
identity access management, a basic sysadmin role is something that is a security related. But everybody, like you said, you called out a whole bunch of different places. You ain't even get into the response recovery. You ain't even get into the forensics piece of it, which is after the fact, right?
After the fact. There you
Right.
go. Yeah.
No, I had an apprentice say to me, "Well, I want to be in forensics,
Mhm.
and what's the jeopardy?" Because I was going through a scenario that I've been through in an incident response world,
Mhm.
and essentially one of my first breaches I had to deal with this organization was exposing PII. And my answer was to shut the darn website down. And then this person piped up, "Well, what about it from a forensic perspective?" I said, "Let me tell you, forensics is on the back end of this." I said, "If you're violating the law, unplug the daggone thing and prevent it from exposing people's PII, because that'll get you in a lot more trouble than
That's
trying to
right.
figure out root cause analysis."
That's it.
And essentially, the root cause was our own doing anyway. Well, nobody hacking into our site. One of our software engineers put some code in it, so it wasn't even a forensics, issue.
Right, right. You got insider threats going on. They ain't
Right.
even outside. They are on the network, boo.
So
But
tell me, go ahead, sweetie. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
No, because there's a lot of talk, and I'm gonna shift to talk about this entrepreneurship type of thing, right?
Right.
Because we haven't really talked to a lot of people about that this year, really, and because you own a cybersecurity company. Like, we did talk to a couple of people this year, but the decision, right? The decision, you've been running your business now for 15 years, the decision to leave corporate and to try your hand at entrepreneurship, what drove that?
Ooh, there were several, right? Um, so let me go back. So I am a minority woman in Louisiana in IT, right? So limitations on how much I could make. I went back, I had my undergrad. I went back, I got my master's. I went back, I got every certification they asked me to get, right? And I explained to my manager or my management quite a few times, right? Anytime I would go for promotion. Now, don't misunderstand my story. They put me in charge of a litany of teams, right? They flew me on private jets wherever I went. Like I took the company plane where I was going, Denver, and I stood up call centers. I set up our CMMC center and I made sure that we got our certificate. I got all the things, right? Except the title and the right dollar amount. Now, because I was in Louisiana, I was being told, "Girl, don't nobody make that kind of money around here." No, don't nobody make that kind of money in what I do, right? Because you're looking at it wrong. So your viewpoint is skewed. You think because then you're ignoring, I already know the amount of zeros that come behind the title. I know the zeros that come behind the certifications that I got. And so I was getting all the time, I felt like I was the person that you put that hat on that dog, and the dog had a stick on it and it had the carrot in front of it. And so you're always chasing the carrot, but you can never get to the carrot, right? Because the carrot was never, it was designed for you to never get there. Then I would be in meetings, and you're you when you have that bug, you have that bug. First of all, my father also owns his own business, so I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. But when you're sitting in a room and you're going, what now? Like, I could make better decisions than this. I could, oh my God, what are we doing? And how many resources are we wasting in this room right now? Because the one thing that I have is because I'm great at project management, is one of my certs. I'm PMP. You walk in a room and immediately I start calculating how much money is around the table. Immediately. What is your title? How long is this meeting scheduled for? What are we here to do? Right. And so I begin to think, man, I really ought to bet on myself. I really need to, let me see if I can do this. So I gave myself a time limit, and I said, if I can't, because I knew how old I was, and I said, if in this time frame I can't make the money, I'm still young enough to go back to corporate, right? Whatever.
Right, right, right.
But it was a matter of I knew that I could be more than they were telling me that I could be. Um and that's not even a slap in the face. It was just, sometimes you get tired of being tied down to something, and you're being taken advantage of. That's never a good feeling by anybody. And so I decided I had to bet on me.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's what we do, right? Always bet on you because life is too short for others. But as a entrepreneur, let me ask you this: what is the toughest thing about being an entrepreneur?
Baby, all of it. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a real answer. You try to be serious. Um, the 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 correct answer, the behaved answer is knowing what you don't know and doing what you don't know, right? So when you start your business, you are very, very confident in what you know. So I started digital forensics and cybersecurity and project management, right? I got to add that because literally my master's and a lot of my certifications are in project management. Because again, cybersecurity was not yet available to me, right? So you start a business, number one, how do you instill trust and how do you make sure that people will come and spend money with you? You spend a lot of time convincing people that you know what you're talking about. And so you get into this point where you're giving away all of your services, right? You become the volunteer queen. And people will know you as the volunteer queen. They'll know you have a family. They'll know you need money. And they will still call you and put you on every docket and ask you to come to everything. And like gas is free and all your time is free. And you actually have less resources than if I were to call up the CEO of IBM. He has more availability to show up at your stuff, and he won't. Or she, I don't know, than me. But I have to do all the things. So not only do I have to make sure that I'm finding clients and that I have the work and I have the resources to pay, because you have to keep in mind as a small business owner, how much collateral do you have? How much money have you made? So a company will hire you and they'll pay you X amount of dollars, right? And why a bank feels like that a company can trust you with a salary of, but they shouldn't trust you with a salary of nothing, right? You have to do it all on your own. Then there is, well, am I budgeting correctly every quarter? So now you're an accountant and you are a cybersecurity professional. So I'm a cybersecurity professional, but I'm an accountant. Oh, I'm sorry. I met with a client and I didn't have a good contract. So now I'm legal, right? I have to understand, are my contracts in place? And I've got burned. Oh, I got some burn stories for you. But because my contracts weren't what I needed them to be. So what you start finding, to give you the shorter version of your to your question, I'm sorry, is the longer you stay in business or the more you're there, the more you figure out there's a million and one hats you have to wear. And when I opened my business, it's only because I was only really wearing one really, really well. And
Mhm.
even that one, I'm at odds trying to convince you that I do it really well. Like I'm one of the best in to do it, right? And sometimes and we give ourselves a bad rap. We'll go to a small business and we'll give our counterparts all of the grace in the world.
Mhm.
And then we'll walk into a black owned establishment and we'll act like they don't need grace. But I'll also say this, but if you are a black or minority owned business, understand that that's what they when they come in your door, that's what they're going to do. So be on top of your game. It's understanding that you shouldn't wear all the hats,
Mhm.
right? And it's the letting go. And letting go, for especially for me, like when you are an alpha type female, um and you get
I don't know nothing about
you
that.
don't
I
know
have
nothing about it,
nothing.
girl, not at
Absolutely
all.
not at all.
Okay, well, luckily I'm over here and you over there, so lightning can do whatever it wants. But yeah, when you letting go can be hard because it's your name, it's your brand. And in the beginning, you understand that there's a lot that you need to oversee because you don't want the risk of someone labeling your business because you don't necessarily hear everything. Everything doesn't go on Yelp. Everything doesn't go on LinkedIn. And what's even sadder is when you do a phenomenal job, you rarely hear that. You mess up one time and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And so that's the other thing about being an entrepreneur, your
Mhm.
feelings, they got to be rock solid. Or you got to
Mhm.
have a community where you can learn to go and cry, right? And you can't cry out loud to everybody because some people are just waiting on you to come cry, and that's going to be out there in them streets. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. Oh, I understand. Like I said, the whole entrepreneurship. I know we I have individuals talk and we have these conversations about being an entrepreneur. And I said, you got it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
You're going to have some resiliency and the same challenges that you have literally with getting paid what you're due, getting recognized as a subject matter expert that you are, those same pain points that you have internally, if you're
Yes.
working for an organization, it's the same when you have your own business. So the funding's not always there. They're not giving loans. You're not getting investment dollars. So when you decide that's what you want to do, there's a reason why. And I commend you. I've been dipping in and out of entrepreneurship since I left the FBI in 2008. So it's always been a bug of mine as well. But I've always, when things got rough, I always had the option, right? It's like, oh, I'll just go back and work for corporate. Oh, well, I'm a lawyer, so I can go back into the legal field if I so choose. And so it becomes having those other options is important. But again, let's go back to what you touched upon a little bit, because many of these individuals are going to go into some type of environment, corporate type of environment, large, medium, small, could even be an academic institution, could be a nonprofit, but it's still a corporate type of feel to it. So being a minority in these spaces, being a minority leader, what were what challenges come to mind that you had in regards to convincing or navigating corporate spaces? What was the biggest one that you felt um, that you went through?
Um, so my challenge list is almost as long as my burn list. Um, one of the largest, believe it or not, is as a female in IT, you get a lot of male pushback, a lot of it. I've been told everything from, even as the owner of a business, you walk in, you take the notes. Huh? Who? Your hand broke? You know? Um, there is because pride gets real big, then they'll befriend you before you walk inside of a meeting and then hijack your meeting in your meetings. Sound like they look like I almost touched one of your nerves. You wanna and I have dealt with that. I've dealt with being inside of rooms and then other women um coming at me left and sideways. And again, you have to learn again. So a part of leadership is understanding not every attack is an attack at you. Sometimes those attacks are because they themselves. Number one, why are you praising her when I've been saying that the whole time? You have to understand the same way I'm getting pushback in meetings, so are they. When other women, when you pull them into this space, and that's the problem that I have when we start talking about male dominated industries. Technically, we shouldn't really have very many male driven. I mean, some maybe because they may be stronger than us, or but when you start talking about when you need comprehension, points of view, you need multiple points of view. Um, whenever you're dealing, especially in this space, right? We're very we're very analytical. That's not to say that a man is not analytical. And so whenever I get pulled into any kind of panel and we start getting into these conversations, I really want to make sure that I express I love my men. I understand we need men. And I'm not even going off topic. I'm on topic, on brand. We need men. And the same way we can articulate the need for men in a space, we should be able to say we need a woman in a space. She has a different touch, a different view, right? When she walks in, brute force is not the answer to everything, right? Break fix is not the only thing that we're going to have to do whenever we get inside of a system, right? Analytically, how did that work? How did the code work? The if then else. Now we will if then else you to death. How about that? So we naturally if then else versus not necessarily that's a man's necessarily go to. There is some nurturing that is required within this industry, right? I ask people all the time, when you look inside of a jail, is it only filled with one type of a criminal? And it's not. So you can't go into any form of security thinking that one point of view will block, I can block all access and I can keep everyone out thinking singularly. We cannot and should not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's valuable insight, and the we always talk about the lack of diverse faces and voices, even age,
That's right.
thinking, social, all of it, because we're getting beat every day by the hackers, by the attackers,
That's right.
every single day. I
Mm-hmm.
just went through an outage. AT&T gonna be mad at me, but my internet was down,
Mm-hmm.
that I couldn't work. And then from, I guess the outage was Tuesday, I guess it was, and it was the over all night. Soon as my daughter came home at 3 p.m., the internet went down. It didn't come back on to the next day. And I'm like, everything to me, even an outage, is like, okay, did somebody physically hit a transformer? I mean, we weren't in Florida. I'm in Texas. It was sunshine. It's hot. So there was no weather. So the question is, why am I now still going through this outage? And
Hmm.
it becomes those types of things that you can get various viewpoints from. Just even the way you grew up,
That's right.
whether you grew up in the city, or whether you grew up in the suburbs, or whether you grew up in a rural area, that your thought process is different, and all of those voices need to be included when we're talking about defense,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's what we're doing. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be preventing things from happening,
That's
right?
right. And
And go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
It's sometimes we're just also too far removed, right? You have to think about leadership. There's times that we can sit in a meeting that we have an answer for something that up above they would never get. Now, there are decisions that they make because they derive their decisions based off, and as a business owner, now I now understand. But then there are decisions that we, because we're closer to it, we can see and appreciate and give you a better fix for because we're definitely closer to it. I think about, even with the Sony hack a couple of years back, you got to think about it. How often are we as adults playing some of those games? But we want to dismiss hiring younger students to be literally in hacker or threat type of scenarios when we don't even play them games. So how we gonna help you, right? The learning curve is you need for us to take time to even learn the games that are even popular enough. Because you sit us down, we go back to the Atari and Nintendo and start talking about some good look. They ain't gonna get into this. They not because they not playing them no more. You know,
There
I
folks. I
remember
mean, there's a movement for old school arcade games
it,
out there. Yeah,
it
yeah, I'm
is,
just
it
using,
is,
using Raspberry Pis and stuff like that to
it
be
is.
able to play these older games, and they're better anyway. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
They
interrupt
are
you.
better, but if you're talking Fortnite and if you're talking Call of
That's
Duty
all
and if you're talking, right?
right.
So we'll start naming games that some of us or upwards aren't even interested in. It was like that is a skill set that I don't even have the attention span for, right? I remember going to a hackathon for one of the universities,
Mhm.
and there was a young man there, and I mean he is crushing it. I mean he is just I'm taking things down. He is just doing phenomenal. And so I waited to the break and I went over and I talked to him and I was like, I'm sure like companies are beating down doors to hire you. He was like, no, I cannot find a job. And I said, what do you mean you can't find a job? He said, because he said, I do not have the GPA, so they will not interview me. And I said, well, what's wrong? And he said, when I get to class, they start teaching me off of a PowerPoint and reading to me, and they totally lose me. I cannot do it. I cannot take it. I hate it. I hate everything about the academic part of it, right? Now, granted, there are some things that you should hold on to. And yes, education is important. So I'm not, honey, no, I'm the wrong person to argue with that one. But when you come on this side, and I say that a lot, even in some of the trainings that I do, we will give a doctor a practicum, we'll give a nurse one, but we'll turn around and in this field is so unexplored, though. That's the problem. We have people making decisions who don't understand our world and our field. Our field has not been broken down. It has not been we I can tell you if I want to go into medicine, I can already tell you, do I want to be a nurse? Do I want to be a cardiologist? A brain. But before I even get to all of those general medicine, you got to do general medicine first. So when we start talking about technology, okay, so there's general technology. But beyond that, where are cardiologists and podiatrists and pediatrics and all of the well, that's where we start talking cybersecurity and data analytics and digital forensics. But because no one is having that conversation and allowing take it beyond just the book, give them back their practicums and understand we are missing a very large skill
Mhm.
set.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, going back into that medical analogy, it becomes back to the basics, which is still, understanding you cannot be a pen tester if you don't know how to defend the network. I'm so sorry. I'm so, so sorry. I'm going to need you to understand. Don't be sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. But those are the basic things. You start with what we're here to do,
Yeah,
defense. That's exactly, we are here to prevent things, and I almost slipped up, it's Friday, prevent things from happening. Like that's what we're here to do. And so if
that's
you
right.
don't have the basic concepts of that,
Yeah,
right? If you don't understand the hierarchy of that, if you don't understand that the incident, closing the incident down is more important than the forensics side of it. If you can't understand that, that's a problem. And you have
that's
to understand the pecking order, because you will get frustrated, right? Because then we get to the corporate thing. Well, if the business doesn't want it, I don't care what you say, it's not going to get done. And so that part right there is
right.
harder for young professionals, because they come in with their education, or they come in with their, whether it's a degree, whether it's they build out their own network, and this is the right way to do it. It's like, I've been in this space for over 30 years. I'm gonna tell you, let me advise you on something. Honestly, there's probably nothing that you can do today that I haven't been involved in from a technical perspective, one. But two, if the business does not want it to happen, I don't care what you say, it's just not going to happen, because cybersecurity is not a revenue generator. We are a cost center. What that means, and you've heard me say this before, we cost the business money.
That's right.
And so if we're not understanding or not able to articulate based on what we're doing, how it's either saving, how it's actually literally making us more secure or saving money, you're missing the whole point. And that's the graduation from just being a technologist to being a cybersecurity professional. Because if you want to get into those spaces where you now want to get with the higher salaries, right? There's a cap. I'm here to tell you, there's a cap on individual contributors, right? If you want the
Right.
bigger dollars, you're going to have to learn how to be a people leader, right? And then how do you now motivate your team? All of those things are important, that the younger professionals need to understand coming into this space. You need to understand that coming into this space, that if you're going to build out a career, otherwise you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated, and then there's the leaky boat. Then you're going to leave the space because I can't do it, right? Or it's too hard. So you're not clear minded when you're anything that you ever wanted. You didn't learn how to do initially. Even if we go all the way back how we learned to walk, we fell a whole heck of a lot more than at the time. Then we got it, and then
That's
once we
right.
got it, we can move faster. The walking led to running, and things like that. I said, but that's the concept, right? I don't know why people think that. Oh well, they're gonna get me. They're gonna give me, like I said, $80,000 a year to put it through Chat GPT. That is just not. It's not gonna happen. That is not. That is not right. But if there's questions, I'm sorry, we only got 10 minutes. If there are questions out there, please feel free to put them in the chat. Feel free to, I don't see any questions out there on our YouTube. If you're out there watching on YouTube, we have a couple folks out there watching on YouTube. You can put that in the chat as well. But I want to find out, as it relates to your own personal journey, right? What is the most what do I want to say, effective tool that you've used consistently in your arsenal to continue to move you or propel you forward?
That's a hard one, Mary. But I should have known you was gonna do that. Um,
You act like you don't know me.
nah. That's a great question. Um, I- so it's gonna sound belief in myself. uh, you, your leadership is important. but confidence in who you are. Um, if you and I don't know if you're actually talking about physical tools and cybersecurity. So if you want me to give physical,
No,
okay.
no physical tool. I'm talking about
Um,
your career tools.
then yes. Um, Giving myself permission to follow certain things, right? Um, in this space, because though it's not as new as people want it to, there are still newness that is there's still an exploration that needs to happen. And so being willing, I would say being a hard worker. And I know that's something that we can I be honest? It's this whole, I get it. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as work-life balance. I am not. But I feel like we've gone I feel like we've gone too far the other way. You
Mhm.
know, this belief that everything needs to be rewarded. And so for me, I'll say for me, my continued curiosity and belief that nobody's going to hand it to me. And so I continue to work hard. And then I have to be confident in some of the decisions that I make in implementing certain things, certain choices that we have to do to make this industry better, right? Communication is a big tool, huge, bigly. One of my best ones. Because you have to know how, as you're saying, the business, it's like, look, I had to have a whole revelation moment. People don't get what they don't get, right? I refuse to buy something that doesn't click for me. And so we are in a very dangerous place right now because crime never stopped. It just evolved. Like
Mhm.
there were pirates before, right? And what did people do with piracy? There was a time when we could leave our front doors unlocked and we could leave our cars unlocked, right? And go in the house and leave a couple of doors and windows open and nothing ever happened. And then the criminal figured out these fools ain't locking their doors. And now we're putting everything online. It's just a progression, right? And so before we totally, because we have one identity, one, you're only given one. And if you're not careful, because we keep putting ourselves everywhere, we're on Facebook, we're on this, we're on that. And then we fail to go behind ourselves and check. So a lot of it is how it's communicated and hard work. This
Mhm.
field is hard.
Mhm. No, you made me smile, and I'm pulled up because, of course, I'm going through the conference speaking topics, and I haven't started to ask speakers yet. But one of the topics is the cost of career pursuits. Sometimes there is no work-life balance, and so that you said that, and you're going to now be on that panel. Yay! Look how that works.
Look at go. Yeah,
I will slate you right in there, and to understand, right, and that there is, you have to reach a certain level, or you have to have a certain level of expertise before you can say I'm mentally exhausted. I mean, the resiliency of that you need in this space, right?
that's right.
Because I ran the security operations center. I was in incident response. That means I'm on call 24/7. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the hackers come at 5 o'clock on Friday. I'll tell you when they come. They come during Thanksgiving. They come on Christmas and New Year's Eve. Right? That's when because of course they're criminals. So as you pointed out, when are you going to rob a house? You're going to rob somebody's house when you see the Amazon packages out front, right? And they're not home,
Piling up.
right? Right. It's the same concept,
That's right.
but it's just in cyberspace. And so, as someone that grew up modest, very modest beginnings or whatever, dodging certain things in my own neighborhood. It
That's right.
becomes I bring a certain level of, oh, I've seen that before, right? To this profession, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, as I use the example, a armed robber and a cat burglar are two different people, right?
Yes.
An armed robber will be right in your face with the gun. The cat burglar is trying to get in, sneak
Neat.
in and sneak out, right?
Right.
It's just you just so the thought process is that's a thought process, and
That's right.
understanding that Russia may look more like an armed robber, and China may look more like a cat burglar.
That's
And
right.
understanding what that means and how you defend, right? What are you looking at? Do you have money? Then you're probably looking at an armed robber,
Hmm.
right? If you have intellectual property, yeah, you're probably looking at a cat burglar. But the thought, that's what you need to think about. And that's what being in various areas and having diverse viewpoints bring that to the table. Because again, if you don't know what you're protecting, you don't know who's attacking you. And then, like you said, you're looking at the people inside, the folks that are bored, or they ready to leave or whatever. They just, oh, let me click on this link because IT security is going to block all kinds of bad stuff. No, not really. That's not what we do.
Right. We
you
can't
just
cover
you,
all your
you just
holes.
you just opened the door. Yeah, okay, we have 4 minutes left. Any questions out there?
I saw someone named Brian raise her hand.
Uh-oh, Brian, did you uh-oh. Let me see. I'm gonna allow you to talk. Brian, did you have a question? She called you out.
No, it was an accident. Thank you.
He's like, no, 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 what me, what me, what me.
Get me off the screen.
Are there any other questions out there? But it's been a pleasure talking to you. I love the entrepreneurial route, and to bring that and understanding that you can start a business and you can do this, but there are certain things that you have to understand,
Yeah.
right? You have that passion, but then you learn. I just happen to be a lawyer, so my contracts are always tight. So that no, that's no shade, no shade. It's just that I have that skill set,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't have that skill set, you can get burned,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't understand what you're doing, you're just so happy that you got this bid, or you got the contract, but you may not understand. I had a client tell me, this was years ago. Oh, as a reason for why they did not pay my invoice, because that's a thing, not
Yeah.
paying invoices on time, right? 30, 60, 90 day, and what that looks like for your cash flow, right? Right. Those are things, right? But they told me the reason why they didn't hadn't pay me. Oh, well, your invoice is so small. I mean, we just grouped it with for the next month. I was like, it's small to you, but that's how I feed my kids. So wait a
That
minute, hold
part.
on. Let me
Don't
explain. Let
do
me.
that. But thank you for telling me because I can make it bigger so you can pay it now.
Right, right. Do I need to pre-bill you? Anyway, the things you learn as an entrepreneur, there's value to all of it, even taking that, because I always ran my teams internal to corporations as if they were their own businesses, right? And that's always important, even if everybody's not cut out to be an entrepreneur. So even if it's corporate, you still need to understand that the concept of cost center versus the business that's making money, right? The profit who brings in the money, as opposed to who's costing the business money, and whose voice will your executive team listen to. They're not going to listen to yours if it's costing them more money than they're making. Just letting you know that. So
Well, true.
hopefully you guys got some good intel. And it's always a pleasure seeing you virtually, even though you down the street. That's okay. But it's all good. It's always good seeing you, always good talking to you. Everybody, thank you for joining us this evening again. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we will see you. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me see. What's today? What's today? The 11th.
11.
I think we have a call on October 25th. I think our last call is in November. So I'm pretty sure we have like two or three. I think it might be two calls left of the Aspire sessions for the year. And yeah, because the year is coming to a close pretty fast. And I'm gonna say this for those that are watching and listening, please go out and vote. Vote, vote, vote. And that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna keep just make a decision. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.
Bye.